A hospital room can feel like the loneliest place in the world, especially when hope has already walked out the door. 12-year-old Emily Carter stared at the ceiling every day, counting the cracks, counting the hours, counting everything except reasons to believe things could change. Her legs hadn't moved in months. The doctors had said unlikely. The specialists had said prepare for reality. And her father, a powerful CEO who could solve billion-dollar problems with a phone call, stood helpless in silence. But sometimes, hope doesn't come from power, money, or status. Sometimes, it comes from a whisper from someone the world barely notices. Before we begin, take a moment to support stories that remind us what truly matters. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments with Corner of Kind Choices. Your support helps spread kindness further than you can imagine. Daniel Carter wasn't used to losing. As the CEO of a major tech company, he had built his reputation on control, precision, and results. People listened when he spoke. Deals closed when he decided. Problems disappeared under his leadership. But none of that mattered in room 214. Every morning, Daniel walked into Emily's hospital room with a forced smile and a heart that felt heavier each day. He brought her books she used to love, her favorite snacks, even a tablet loaded with movies. But Emily barely reacted. Her once bright eyes had dimmed, replaced with a quiet sadness that no father should ever have to witness. "Hey, Em," he would say gently. "I brought that movie you like." She would nod slightly, but her gaze never left the window. The accident had changed everything. A car crash on a rainy evening had left Emily with a severe spinal injury. The doctors had done everything they could, but the damage was devastating. Weeks turned into months, and hope slowly faded into a fragile memory. One afternoon, as Daniel stepped out to take a call, he noticed someone sitting alone in the hallway. A man in his mid-30s, wearing worn-out jeans and a simple hoodie, sat beside a little girl who was drawing with crayons on the floor. The man looked tired, but there was something warm about him. Something real. Daniel might have walked past, like he usually did. But that day, something made him pause. "Long day?" Daniel asked politely. The man looked up and smiled. "Yeah. But we're getting through it." He gestured toward the little girl. "This is Lily." Lily waved shyly, holding up her drawing, a bright sun, stick figures holding hands. "I'm Mark," the man added. "Single dad. Full-time job. Part-time superhero." Daniel let out a small laugh. "Daniel." They exchanged a few words before Daniel was called back inside. It seemed like a simple, forgettable moment. But it wasn't. Over the next few days, Daniel began seeing Mark more often. Always calm. Always patient. Always encouraging his daughter with gentle words. "Try again, kiddo. You're stronger than you think. Even if it's hard, we don't quit. We just go slower." One evening, as Daniel sat beside Emily, he noticed something unusual. Mark was standing quietly at the doorway, watching. "I'm sorry," Mark said softly. "I didn't mean to intrude. I heard about your daughter." Daniel nodded, tired. "It's okay." Mark stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "May I say something?" Daniel hesitated but then nodded again. Mark walked to Emily's bedside and crouched down so he was at her eye level. "Hey, Emily," he said gently. "I'm Mark." Emily didn't respond at first. But then, slowly, she turned her head. "I heard you're going through something really tough," he continued. "And I just want you to know, you're not alone." Daniel watched carefully. He wasn't sure how to feel. This stranger, this ordinary man speaking to his daughter like he understood her pain. Then Mark leaned a little closer and whispered something so soft, Daniel almost didn't hear it. "I'll help her." It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But something about those words carried weight. Emily blinked. For the first time in days, there was a flicker, just a tiny spark in her eyes. "What do you mean?" Daniel asked, his voice cautious. Mark stood up. "I'm not a doctor. I'm not a miracle worker. But I've been through something similar with Lily." Daniel looked at the little girl in the hallway, now laughing as she colored. "She couldn't walk either," Mark continued. "Doctors said it would take years, if ever. But we didn't give up. We found small ways to keep going." Daniel's heart tightened. "And now?" Mark smiled. "Now she runs faster than me." There was a silence in the room. A different kind of silence, one that didn't feel so heavy. "Let me try something," Mark said. "No pressure. Just kindness and patience." Daniel hesitated again. But this time, something inside him shifted. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was hope. "Okay," he said quietly. The next day, Mark returned not as a visitor, but as someone with purpose. He brought simple things. A soft ball. A small mirror. Encouraging words. "Emily, we're not going to think about walking today," he said gently. "We're just going to think about trying." At first, nothing happened. Emily barely moved. But Mark didn't rush. He didn't push. He just stayed. "Even if it's just a finger," he would say. "That's enough for today." Day after day, he came back. Sometimes Emily got frustrated. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she refused. But Mark never gave up. "Progress isn't loud," he told her. "It's quiet. It's slow. But it's real." Daniel watched it all, confused and amazed. This man who had no obligation, no connection, was showing up every single day. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel asked one evening. Mark shrugged. "Because someone once did it for us. And it changed everything." Weeks passed. Then one morning, something incredible happened. Emily's finger twitched. It was small. Almost unnoticeable. But Mark saw it immediately. "There it is," he said, his voice full of excitement. "Did you feel that?" Emily's eyes widened. I I think so." Daniel froze. His heart raced. That tiny movement became the beginning of something bigger. More sessions. More effort. More belief. Emily started responding more. Talking more. Smiling just a little. And then, one day, with Mark and Daniel beside her, Emily lifted her hand. Daniel couldn't hold back his tears. Months later, Emily stood with support for the first time. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. Daniel turned to Mark, overwhelmed. "I don't know how to thank you." Mark shook his head. "You already have. Just keep believing in her." Daniel insisted. "Let me help you. Anything you need." Mark smiled softly. "Then help someone else. That's how this works." That night, Daniel sat alone, thinking about everything that had happened. All his life, he believed success was about power, control, and achievement. But in that hospital room, he learned something different. Kindness doesn't need wealth. It doesn't need titles. It just needs a heart willing to show up. Emily continued to improve. Slowly but surely, she regained strength not just in her body, but in her spirit. And Daniel changed too. He started a foundation to support families going through similar struggles. He spent more time listening, less time controlling. But most importantly, he never forgot the lesson Mark taught him. Sometimes, the smallest act, a whisper, a moment, a gesture, can change a life forever. And sometimes, the people who change us the most are the ones the world overlooks. So wherever you are today, remember this. You don't have to be powerful to make a difference. You don't have to be perfect to bring hope. All it takes is one act of kindness, one moment of care, one quiet promise. I'll help. And that might be enough to change someone's entire world.